Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel, We're the Movie Couple. I'm Wendy.
I'm Dustin.
And here is our spoiler review for episode 7 of Lovecraft Country, entitled I Am. So before we dive into it, and we give you guys a warning every time, but we have to keep putting it in just in case. This is a spoiler review, which means we are going to talk, well, spoilers in this video about episode 7 and past episodes of Lovecraft Country. So if you're not caught up with the show yet, I would go ahead and bookmark and save this video in your watch later list and come on back when you are all caught up. Unless you don't mind spoilers and you don't care, or if you read the book and you just want to watch the review to kind of get a sense of what's going on. In that case, watch on. And here it is. Here is our spoiler review. This episode is entitled I Am. Now, the past 2 episodes have been so far my favorite. And that is the one where Ruby transforms, sort of that transmutation. No, it's not really transmutation, but you know.
Where she's able to put on the different skin of someone else.
Out of the skin, which is pretty gross. Then we have, I like to call it the Jamie Chung episode.
It was. And it showed we got like a whole backstory of an episode, which was really good. And I loved what they did with her character.
Yes. Now this episode is really, I like to call this, it's not 100% a Hippolyta episode, but I would say like 85 to 90%.
I'd say, it is mostly her show in this one.
Yes.
But they actually did still do a pretty good job on bringing in some of the other storylines. But I think the storyline that they really missed out talking about was the episode we just had. Episode 6. They didn't mention anything that happened in that episode at all.
Well,
pretty much. Well,
technically, because that's in the past. It's an entirely flashback episode until when it connects, when Tick calls her and said, "How'd you know?" And she said, "I told you. You know, what are you?" And she hangs up. So that's kind of where the connection is, which is why I guess they didn't make too big of a deal out of it. But I certainly hope that is not the last time we see Gia and maybe her Fox Demon powers.
I mean, I was really excited to see how they're going to meld her into the story. Like maybe she comes after him. Because now that she got that phone call, how did you know? Now she's going to go to America?
But I don't think she's coming to be against him.
No, I think she'd be there like either to help him or somehow help figure out what's going on.
Yeah, or there's some sort of connection, or maybe it is the last that we see her, which would be a shame. So this episode really focuses on, we talked about Hippolyta, and we had seen prior to this episode that she had always known there was something a little fishy about the story they kind of cooked up about how George died. And it makes sense for them to not to want to tell her about it, because that sounds insane.
Yeah, I mean,
with what they told her about the house.
It's like, okay, just keep it easy. Don't tell her about the monsters. Don't tell her about the portal to the Garden of Eden. Don't tell her about the magic and all of that. Just say, he got shot by a cop.
Right, which is, I guess, a part of a risk of, being a travel guide, as in doing what he does in research and things like that. But she that's her husband, and she just felt like there was something a little off. And we see her sitting with not sitting with Dee. She was actually walking around the rubbles of the Braithwaite house.
The fact that she actually went there, found it on the map. Wow. And I was actually surprised that she didn't bump into any trouble on the way. Kind of a thing.
Me too, considering how much Tick, Letty, and George had to run away from. But maybe, this show, it is a little bit fantastical, so maybe she was meant to find it.
Yeah, and also George was actually deliberately looking for safe places for black people to travel.
Okay, that's true,
So he might have gone, where she probably just went straight there, maybe.
Yes, and that was the last place he was at before they, came back. So she probably made the connection. She picked up the little comic print that Dee drew as a tradition before he sets off on one of the trips. So she knew that he was definitely there, and she's like, I'm going to dig. We see her digging in also about the orrery and trying to figure out how to activate it. My favorite part about this episode, honestly, is how brilliant and how smart Hippolyta is. They really hadn't touched too much. You could tell she was a remarkable woman already in the prior episodes, but she didn't have much of a time to really shine and come into her own, like some of the other characters got to do in their episodes. Like, Letty kind of had her episode with the house.
Yes.
Obviously Tick, Gia, Ruby, even Christina a little bit. So now we get to see just her trying to figure out the orrery, finding the coordinates and to activate the machine, and just her just kind of like not a beautiful mind, what's the
Hidden Figures, right?
Hidden Figures, and like what's the Goodwill Hunting it.
Oh yeah.
And kind of just figuring out the science and the axis and everything, and to get the machine going before she was rudely interrupted by man, they're everywhere, huh? The Sons of Adams and the so shoots a cop.
I know when after she got into the machine and that she was Tick finally kind of like came to the rescue out of nowhere. I thought that was kind of like, whoa, Tick, how did you get there? But yeah, since they were both leading to that same point, it was really cool to kind of see how they collided and how they were actually able to meet there.
Yeah.
On separate, like one was following one set of clues and one was following the other set of clues.
Ends up in the same place because they're all kind of after the same thing, which goes to show that they're also interconnected with each other. But she gets sucked into this like interdimensional time travel sort of a deal. And I love that part, especially in the very first place she lands, quite futuristic.
Yeah.
And her, she's got these things on her wrist that's like embedded, and trying to think her way out of this not prison.
Yeah.
Finally gets her out of it, and the first thing she travels to gets to go to Paris.
That was such a funny moment to where she's like, what's going on? And she's kind of doing the dance moves, and she's just like,
everybody's mad at her.
But yet, yes, how she naturally kind of fit into that world, that the world that she was in accepted that her reality kind of thing. Her being a part of the reality.
Yes. And then once she's ready to move on from that, she declares, I am Hippolyta. She then becomes just empowering warrior, learning how to fight, battle, run into war before what does she do after that? Does she travel to another place? Oh yeah, she traveled. She went all the way back to I am Hippolyta, George's wife. Mm-hmm. And finally, we've been saying this since George died. Can they really cast Courtney B. Vance, of all people, in a series and then just kill him off in the second episode?
I know. I was kind of like,
what? Third episode. He is back, at least in this episode.
And he actually had they had him in there for a while. I love the advancement that they did with his character and the relationship that they have between Hippolyta and himself.
That conversation was amazing. For him to say, what was it? You love that line too. He said, I am sorry I made you. No, he said, I think something like, I made you shrink or I helped you shrink.
I helped you shrink.
Admitting that so he could be the bigger person.
Well, so that
to do what he wants to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, he had his plans and his goal.
So he could come home and be like, she's there holding down the house. I can do what I want.
I can go and do something dangerous.
As opposed to being like an equal.
Yeah.
Oh God, I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was.
It was I love the dialogue between the two of them, and then they go on their own adventure into the future, and I was just like, oh, this is. I really liked.
In a depiction of her daughter's comic book character. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was a really great episode, and I love her path of it. One of the problems I have with it. And I know there's 3 more episodes left. I thought this was, for some reason, I was in my head thinking that, I read somewhere that this was going to be the last episode. And clearly, as you watch this episode, it is not. But this episode, for me, and with everything Hippolyta got to do and to discover who she is, and even more so about this whole crazy magic world that they've somehow stumbled into, but also had been a part of because of Bloodline, it felt rushed to me.
Well, I think they were trying to get a lot out with Hippolyta.
Yes.
And they were trying to also get out a very difficult concept. I still really don't quite understand exactly what that machine is. Because they had mentioned that it's not really a time machine. She said that it's like multiple...
Time and space.
Time and space, but it was also the idea of multiple universes, multiple versions of herself.
Yes.
But then the machine must have been built for a specific reason. Maybe my theory is that that helps you become the best version of yourself possible, kind of a thing. Maybe.
Okay.
But I'm kind of curious. Yeah, what is the purpose of this machine? What is so secret about it? There's something that will definitely grant incredible power, because everyone's after it.
Maybe rule the universe if it's multi-dimensional,
Mm-hmm.
multi-timelined. So yeah, it's possible that if Christina wants the orrery, she wants to be able to travel to various dimensions and kind of discover and alter things if possible.
That would make sense. Is that what if there's a world that Christina can find to where she is not held back at all, to where she's able to become have the greatest potential actualized, to where she was trained. And that being a woman
doesn't hinder her opportunity.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
That's one of the big points with her character is she hates that because she's a woman she cannot join, and she talks about this briefly with Ruby.
Yeah.
A little bit about all of that and her motivations and why she's doing what she's doing. And I think that's why for me I felt like the Hippolyta part was a little bit rushed because there were so many other storylines to insert back in there. We all want to know, because the last episode 6 was so dedicated to what happened in Korea, that they didn't focus on anybody else, right? So obviously you kind of want to know what happens with Ruby and Christina now, and it seems like they're still like frenemy type of a deal. They're talking to each other.
Yeah, they're definitely still sisters that are at odds.
No. Christina and Ruby.
Oh, Christina and Ruby. I'm sorry.
Not Letty.
Because because that does happen in that. But yeah, the relationship between the two of them is developing, kind of a thing. Frenemies is actually a pretty good.
It's more than that though, because she said
like business
it may
partners.
have come out, but she said about the romantic stuff, it may have come out of William's mouth, but those are my words.
Oh.
So are they like? It would be a very unhealthy relationship. But as a fan, I kind of want to see where it goes. Mm-hmm. But as like kind of for the character, I'm like, no, Ruby, get away from that. It's toxic.
You can't trust her.
She's probably bad. We see a little bit more about William actually did exist, because remember how I said, and you noticed this in Ruby's episode, was that when she transformed, it was the woman who was guarding the silo, right? And then I had the theory of saying maybe when they make the potion, it has to be somebody they have known and encountered. And I thought maybe that's just like when they're doing the magic and making the potion, they have to think of, that person and put like thought into that. But I think it's more of a physical thing because
they needed their blood.
Yeah, so they're like dead but not dead.
Kind of like a polyjuice potion, to where you need something from the person. And so, but if you needed a little bit more like blood, because this is HBO, so a piece of hair ain't gonna cut it. You're gonna need quarts of their blood. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So
that also means though, if you get enough blood from someone, you can make a potion that makes you look like them. Mm-hmm. So that opens up a whole new possibilities of things that they could do. Mm-hmm. I mean, they could kidnap someone as quietly as they can, use their blood, and then infiltrate as them. Yeah. So maybe that can happen too.
And we also learned a little bit more about the conversation that Ruby and Christina were having about, Christina explained about the Book of Names. Yes. And what I thought was weird is what she said to Ruby was, well, it's your family. Yeah. And I said, well, wait, hold on. Her and Tick are not related. So how? Maybe they are. Well, speaking of Letty and Tick, Letty had a very similar dream to Tick, where they see Hannah running out of the Braithwaite's house. Letty sees her holding the book, turning around, but and as she turns around, Hannah sees Letty, and Letty is pregnant, and then later on engulfed in flame, Letty wakes up. I'm pretty sure she is pregnant. I'm pretty sure her and Tick made a baby. Yep. Because they've been doing the deed. Yep. And so is that where the bloodline connects because of Tick's bloodline? Maybe. Or does Letty have a separate, some sort of bloodline that we have not discovered yet?
But that means then, what is it called? Christina would have to be aware that Tick and Letty have made a baby, making it a part of their family.
I don't think she'd know that though.
Maybe. I mean, maybe there's also some kind of prophecy kind of thing.
She's got power. Oh, okay.
And that some of this is happening for a reason, and that Letty and Tick were supposed to get together and have a baby. kind of thing, and it's that bloodline between Tick and Letty, or Tick what is that called? Moving forward the bloodline.
Another thing that just kind of popped in my head, and my memory about this is so vague, okay? So this is a wild theory. I'm probably 110% wrong. But remember when they were at the mansion, and it was the night of either the dinner or the ceremony. I think it was the dinner first. And Samuel's guests were kind of, remember it gave me that Get Out vibe, and they were looking at George and Letty and Eddie. It was Letty with the snake penis thing.
Oh yeah.
And they were all kind of
watching them through the spell doors.
Yeah, it was gross. And Christina was kind of amongst them walking around. And one of the guests said, "But why is his daughter here?" So at the time I thought he's just talking about Christina, but like.
Maybe they weren't talking about Christina. Maybe they were talking about Letty.
Which would make sense if that make. But see, that's why it's such a thin theory that
would have to go back and check out exactly.
Samuel and Letty are somehow like connected. You know what I mean? Like that. Just I'm just throwing it out there because I like to discuss theories and stuff like that. It's totally okay for me to be wrong, but I just thought I'd bring that up. Another thing that was really interesting is when Hippolyta got pulled into the multidimensional warp thing. Tick kind of got pulled with her, but they didn't have the same travel path.
Yeah, and that was also weird. Tick kind of just went in, came out, and then he had
We'll see it next week.
He had a book. Or we just didn't get his story.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I think we'll see that next week. Maybe. Because he was not holding... I don't think he was holding a book when he first got there. But he was certainly holding a book when he came back, and it was a Lovecraft Country book. And I first thought, oh, okay, that's cute, because there is a Lovecraft Country book that I'm currently listening to right now, and I thought it was just like a little nod, a little Easter egg. But going back and looking at it, it actually was written by Uncle George.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
So
that's in... Oh, that... Ooh...
So that makes sense that the multi-dimensional different timelines in the multiverse exist in the Lovecraft Country. So that's all. There's a lot that's going on in this episode. I feel like we're missing something else too. Oh yes, Montrose and Sammy were found out by Tick and Letty because they just happened to be in the in the hallway when Sammy was about to leave and Montrose grabbed his hand.
Another moment also of brilliant acting to where Sammy had this. Oh my God, what have I done? I did not intend for this moment to happen right now. I just have, to see his heartbreak because he knows what Montrose is right now going to have to go through.
Yeah, it's tough. And also another brilliant acting moment for Tick, because if you watch the emotion on his face, as he said, did Mom know about this? And Montrose's hesitation, and then finally with the truth, yes. And if you go back and watch Tick's reaction, like all of those thoughts, expression on his face was so brilliant because I know that's not easy to do.
Yeah.
That's not easy to do, and he did it flawlessly. So there was a lot about this episode, and because there's so many other storylines, I felt that, and that's why I felt that the Hippolyta stuff was a little bit rushed, because they gave her moment, but like they couldn't give her even more of it, and just because they had so many points they had to touch on to kind of get us to that final episode, which is in 3 episodes. And then next week, I feel like Dee is going to get into some trouble because her page of the comic was left under the bleeding, now dead, police officer. So like, she's just a girl. So it's a good thing that her mom's going back. Her mom's going. She did say, "I'm going to go back to my Earth because I got a daughter there." So she'll go back. But wow.
Yeah, Dee's going to get to experience this firsthand. Have no idea what the heck's going on.
She's like, "I'm just a kid. I just like drawing, like with my imagination." And so this is. You can tell now the show is kind of in that final stage. It's ramping up to get us to the final episode. God, I hope there's a season 2. I just don't feel like this is a 1-season type of a show. So we'll see. I'm still pretty further behind in the book, which I kind of like. So it's going really, really great, and I'm really liking the adaptation so far because the book can be very complex, so in a good way. Any final thoughts on episode 7?
No, this one was just, this one is a little bit different. And I have to admit, each episode has been very different from each other. I can't say that this has been, one episode had the same vibe as another one. They've done a really good job with the tones and changing it up and changing up the points of views. So it's a new show every time you watch it.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It's so good, and we're enjoying it so far. We can't wait to tune into the next episode. So thank you so much for hanging out with us and listening to us rant about our theories and spoilers, of course, about episode 7 of Lovecraft Country. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you have any thoughts and your own theories on the episode and what's coming next, and any other Easter eggs you may have discovered in this episode, go ahead and leave that in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, share, do all the YouTube stuff, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.